I'm going to be using a Loew Cornell watercolor palette today, and I almost didn't buy this. I thought it was just a generic brand, or I think it's the packaging, but you can see it says the brand name right there. But the more I looked at it, the more interesting it looked. So I'm going to show you. It says 17 well folding palette, but it's actually only has 12 wells for the paint, and then it has mixing wells. So there is total of 17 wells, but again, they're not all for paint. So we're going to go ahead and open it up. But I rather like it. It's pretty neat. You can put your individual colors in here. What I usually do is I put my liquid colors in here, like I showed you previously, the tubes, and I put them, you know, from light to dark, and it's mainly where I use them. Now, I usually put phthalo blue before ultramarine blue, mainly because I like ultramarine blue, I'm sorry, phthalo blue a little bit better. And another thing that's really cool is that you can go like this and use it as a palette and hold it. And I thought that was really awesome. And you can stick your brushes in here as you're painting. But let's go ahead and I'll show you how I make a palette of watercolor. And this is just one way that I use watercolor. I also do use, you know, the cake, different watercolors, and I use them just as a liquid also. Sometimes I'll make up a big batch so I can get a real consistent color. Let me go ahead and move these right here, and I'll show you how I put this in here. I'm using a less expensive brand, but you can go like this. And I pretty much fill it up with the paint. And what's neat is you can use this when it's wet. I think I'm going to put that down a little bit so it doesn't go over the top. But you can use these colors right now while they're wet, or you can let them dry and keep using them over and over. That's sort of the beauty of watercolor, is it can be wet and re-wet. Don't think I'll maybe fill this one quite as full. This is sort of a medium yellow. Probably won't fill this one quite as much, mainly because I don't use this color as much. And this is what they call a little deeper yellow. It's almost an ochre, but it is just a little bit different. You'll see when I put the ochre in. This is the yellow ochre. See, it's just a slight difference, not a whole lot there. Okay. Again, if you want to make these real smooth, you can put your finger in there. This is that pretty phthalo blue that I like. Well, actually, we should be putting a red here. There's a brilliant red, which is a little bit lighter than the crimson red. You know, the different brands, sometimes they call them different, they use different names for their watercolors. And say if this, when you let this dry and you've used it a long time, and this starts getting really low, these different colors, go ahead and just put new colors on top of it. It's not going to matter. what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and fill these all and then show you, and it'll give you some time to fill yours also. Now I did find this at a discount store, but you can also find them at your different craft stores or art stores locally. I'm going to turn the camera off and I'm going to go ahead and fill these, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Okay, I have my palette full of different paints. I did make a mistake here. I didn't realize I had this lighter permanent green here. So it actually, this should be here, then this one should be here, the sap, and then the darker here. And I was out of some of these colors, so I need to go get some. I use more colors, more of some colors than others. But that's how it looks, and it's wet. You can use it wet, or you can let it dry and use it dry. You can take this with you to the park or on vacation and just put a little watercolor pad in your bag and just paint away. Okay, I zoomed in here a little bit to show you the palette, and these will be our mixing colors. And I wanted to show you again here because I do have some brushes to show you, but this can be a really nice palette for you just to use. And you can put your brushes here. Well, mine aren't big enough. Here we go. As you can see, and they'll just stay there. So I'm going to show you how you can go ahead and mix in these wells for some of the new painters. When you get your brush, you need to get it really wet, especially if you're wetting it for the first time. And I'm going to make an orange color for you. So we'll go like this. I try to use a different paintbrush for each paint, mainly because I really try to keep my palettes clean. That means crisp, bright colors without getting them muddy with other colors in them. And it just makes for a better painting. Now let's take a little bit of red. We'll go ahead and make an orange, an orangish red. Probably used a little too much of the red, but let me show you here. When I dip my paintbrushes in water, again I try to keep a very clean palette, so that means I try to keep the water as clean as possible. So if you go like this, the water's going to go, the paint's going to go everywhere. But if you just dip it in like this, it's not going to go everywhere. And again, this is the yellow brush, so I'm going to get it pretty wet with the yellow and come back and make this more of a lighter orange. Now, if you've decided, well, I don't want that color for this type of painting, for your next painting, so you've already finished a painting, you can just get it wet, because it might be dry, or you can just go ahead and wipe it off between each painting, and you can clean it. If you need more wells than this as you're painting, sometimes I use styrofoam plates, white. Always try to use a white background when you're mixing your paint, because it'll give you more of a true color, because generally they go on a white palette. Oh boy, I get messy sometimes when I'm painting. I'll have to clean that up, but anyway, but at least you got to see that pretty phthalo blue. Actually, let me show it to you. I love phthalo blue. You can see how pretty that is. And this is phthalo blue. I love to use it. Okay, so I'm really ready to start a painting with this. You can stop over by my website, constancehessman.com. You can see some of the lessons that I'm making. I'm building the library of lessons more and more, and they're going to have simple, easy to use paintings and products that if you're just wanting to get into painting or drawing or art, that you can get in pretty inexpensively. Just give it a try. If it's something you like, then you can invest in some more expensive art products. And the difference between art products mainly is that some are archival and some are not. So if they're archival, that means that they're more light fast. The light won't fade them as much, and they'll last a little bit longer, and usually they're a little richer in color. So just keep that in mind when you're making choices. Some of the cheaper brands do say that they're still archival, so that is sort of your choice. Again, if you'd like to stop by my website, it's www.constancehessman.com. And if you're interested in my classes, I'd love to teach you online.